So there's a very nice play on words called living life on purpose. And living life on purpose it means that you're really focused on your purpose. You're living your life based on your purpose. And that creates this overarching focus of your waking hours and your sleeping hours even, because you'd want to go to, if you're living life on purpose, you'd like to go to bed at a time that would best suit you waking up to go back to the purpose of your life. Sadly, most people have no idea what their purpose is. The reason that is because their fear of rejection and failure. The fear of rejection and failure are the main cause of not living life with a purpose, meaning people not knowing their purpose. Like, for example, can anyone in here raise their hand and say they know exactly the specific reason they were created? And I'm talking about outside Judaism, because you have Jewish and you have Jewish. You have Jewish is your Jewish responsibilities, which is a very important purpose, but you also have why you individually were created. And that's got its own very specific tasks that were assigned to you and you were brought to this world to fulfill. And in fact, when you die, if you aren't fulfilling both, you're busted, totally busted. So meaning every person's born with a hook in their mouth, and God's the fisherman. And you can swim as long as you want. You can go 80 years swimming out there. But when you die, he will reel you in. And when he reels you in, he'll have two questions. One question, were you Jewish? And the other question, were you Jewish? Jewish and Jewish. So you imagine some secular guy, he's got a tattoo that says mom on it, pink hair and all kinds of body piercings, and he gets up there and they say, were you Jewish? And he's like, there was no more Jewish than me. I mean, this is one of a kind, And they're like, okay, very good. And were you Jewish? And the guy's like, oh, boss, who said anything about Jewish? Was your mother Jewish? Yeah. Well, you missed it. Okay, back in the pond. Pulls his hook out, back in the pond. Or a guy comes up, Haredi guy, he's got his black hat, he's got his gargle on extra tight, and he gets up there and he says, were you Jewish? He says, yeah, Ishmei Rabbah. Like no one was more Jewish than me. And he says, well, were you Jewish? He's like, Jewish? What's Jewish? Well, God created you individually. Are you like your siblings? No. Are you like the guy sitting next to you in shul? No. Every person has their kochos, and it's a specific task you were given. So God takes them, throws them back into the pond. Try again. So we got to answer for both. We have to answer as Jews, and we have to answer as individuals. The reason we don't know why, the reason we don't know why we're living, meaning the reason we don't know what our purpose is because that, I'm only laughing because the last time I said this, no one paid any attention because this other guy walked in to get his B'nai Yissaschar. So the reason, and then the second I said it again, I go, I'm going to repeat it, and I felt bad for the people watching because they're like, you already said this, but no one in here listened. And I just want to segue for a second. Why is it that a man walking in here takes all of your attention away? And every single person looks at that door. And I'll tell you what you all say the second you look at that door is, what is the threat? Watch, don't look this time. Don't look. What is the threat? Now, part of that is our reptilian brain. Our reptilian brain is like constantly trying to regulate its safety, like a reptile. The lizard is sitting and enjoying the sun on a rock, but he only gets that regulated because he's staying at the same time hyper-aware of his environment. He's got a bird's eye view of the birds who could easily come down for lunch and just swoop them up and take them away as a little, breakfast or something or a lunch. He doesn't want to be someone's lunch. So when that door opens, we are all hyper-aware of the person walking in. And you know what you all do? You all go look at him and you digitally scan his face. You quickly scan his face for his intentions. and you're checking out his intentions. And now, obviously, we're in the deepest part of a yeshiva. So there's a lot of room for anything dangerous happening between the street of Shomron and us. No one's going to make it back here, with bad intentions. But nevertheless, we scan them because we're scanning them for another thing. And that other thing is that we're scanning them for how do we add up to this guy walking in the room? How do we add up? Meaning, there's a lot of categories of comparison. There's looks, there's wealth, there's knowledge, there's knowledge, there's wisdom, which is different than knowledge. There's strength. There's background. Yichus. There's so many categories, and we don't know who the guy is, so we just kind of quickly add him up, like size him up from the outside, and say like, where would I stand? Compared to this guy. How safe am I? It's back to our safety. It's a different safety, though. It's not a safety of like whether we're under attack. It's a safety of would my self-image be at risk here? And then you size the guy up real quick. You see that your self-image isn't at risk. And then you come right back to the class having heard nothing for the last like 20 seconds. And that's what happens every time that door opens. And that's how fragile we are, that we have this thing going on constantly because people are everywhere. You can't get away from people. No matter where you go, there they are. And you want to walk into any social environment where there's more than one person, maybe 20 people or 30 people or 100 people, it's a wedding with 500 people. You are walking into a gauntlet of social danger, of how do you stand up to this? Meaning where are you on the meter of all these different categories of social acceptance, I suppose. Which is a good reason to be very nice to people. A good reason to smile when you walk down the street. Because if you smile at someone you're walking down the street, that guy walks by you and he says, that's one less of 8 billion people that I'm going to wonder what he's thinking. Because he just smiled. I'm worried about what the next guy's thinking, but that guy not. That guy not. So what I'm saying to you is, everybody, take a commitment right now. Since you do that every time that door opens, realize everyone else is doing it. And you be the guy who is one less guy that people wonder about how they add up, how they measure up to you. You be the guy. You make sure that no one has to measure up to you, ever. How? Just with your eyes, your eye contact, a certain smile in your eyes, a certain acceptance. And another thing is, when you're very nervous socially, I'm going to share this. I know you usually wouldn't share this one, but when you're nervous socially, you're probably taking a bit of a risk by talking to somebody, but you don't want to just sit there by yourself, so you take the risk. And you talk to the guy next to you. And then you know what happens? The guy next to him overhears the conversation, swoops in, and dominates the rest of the conversation. And like, you took some courage to do this. You went ahead and spoke to somebody, and then only to become usurped by the guy next to you, and lose your whole, like, everything you the courage to talk. So I just give you a little hint. If you are going to be courageous and converse with somebody at a social event, make sure anyone within earshot is included. So then him joining is a victory, not a loss. So if I got the courage to talk to him, but you're in earshot, I'm going to encourage with eye contact that you're with us in this. And which then, if you wind up joining, that's a social victory just took place. That I was able to create more than just a one-on-one here. This is three of us conversing now. And rather than you being nervous, someone's going to butt in or something, include the guy to begin with. Be inclusive in general. Okay, with that, let's see if it opens again. The thing that gets in the way of us knowing our special purpose so that we can live on purpose is our fear of rejection and our fear of failure. Our fear of rejection, our fear of failure. Think about it, guys. If you knew your purpose, if you knew what you're actually put on this earth for, what are you going to have to do?
Do it.
You got to go do it. Well, who says everyone's going to love it? Who says everyone's going to love it? How do you know everyone's going to be so excited about your special purpose? You know, those who are single here, you don't have to worry about a spouse loving it. But those of us that are married in here, like, I'm not even sure, can you even find your purpose once you're married? Who says she's going to love it? Who says she's going to be so excited about it? So, like, if you're single, it is a good time to be focusing on your purpose. Figure out what it is. It also helps you make a decision who you want to marry, too, because if she's like, I love your special purpose, you know, I love your mission, I love it, like, that's my mission. Or, as most women would prefer to support the mission, is I would be totally supportive of that mission, which takes away a lot of your work in figuring out who to marry because the lady loves your mission. So if the lady loves your mission, it's great. It's important also, so that was rejection. Then there's failure. Is if you have your mission, now you're going to go do it. But if you're going to go do it, well, I have news for you. It's going to fail so many times, just like everything else fails so many times. How many organizations do you think use this space? Like, this building's about 200 years old, and it's clearly built for public use. So, would you say any of them succeeded? So, like, every one of those organizations came into this space excited, with energy, with some funds, and they said, yeah, we're going to really make a big difference for the world. And they came into this space and failed, each one of them, you know. And if you think about, like, successful organizations, you know, go interview the owner of the organization, and what do you get to hear? The history of his failures. He's not going to be telling you the history of its success. Its success is already plain to see, that you see. It's going to be the history of the failures, which were the teachers that taught him the lessons to get to where he's at today. In other words, if you really want to succeed in life, you have to learn to chew on the fat of failure. To chew on the fat of failure. Most people taste failure, they spit it out. And they go run to some other place. But someone who chews on the fat of failure learns the lessons. Failure's the path to success. If you're not failing, you're probably not trying very hard. If you're not failing, you're probably not doing anything. So you need to fail. I heard that Facebook, whatever you call it, the company, that Facebook had on the computers, I don't know if it still does, but it said, on everyone's computer, it said, I guess maybe on the screensaver, it said, fail hard. As opposed to try hard, it was fail hard. Meaning, if you're not failing, you're not moving forward.
I say fail hard, fail fast.
Fail hard, fail fast?
Fail forward.
Fail forward.
Because if you fail fast, you can move on to the next failure or the next.
Right, you don't want to spend 3 years failing. Right. Better to spend 3 days failing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never heard that one. But many of you in this room, and I'm sure many people listening to this, are doing anything not to be being face to face with a failure, right? It's such a terrible fear, and we just rather not taste it, and because we don't want to taste it, so then we will be those who don't want to taste it will not be of those highly successful people. Because the highly successful people chew on the fat of failure. They actually, they love it. You know, they like to fail because they don't like to fail, but they know that that's the path. Now, think about this. If you don't want rejection, if you don't want failure, you don't want purpose. You don't want to have a purpose. Because if you have a purpose, people are going to laugh. You're going to get rejected a lot. It's scary having a purpose. You know, I have a purpose, and I don't like it at all. Like, for example, yesterday I had to do my purpose. It was not fun. It was quite embarrassing, I'll tell you the truth. So my purpose, the purpose that I've aligned with in my life, that I really believe is my purpose, is that I'm a bridge. You want to bring your purpose to one word, so my word is bridge, and then you want to have a byline. So I'm a bridge. I bridge people to themselves, to one another, and to Hashem. That's who I am. Meaning that's my purpose. Okay? I bridge people to themselves. That's the Possible You seminar coming January something. And I still don't know the day, but it's like in 2 weeks from now. And I bridge people to one another. I'm really, really good at connecting people. And I get brought into all kinds of situations of interpersonal strife where I can get people to actually agree. And I'm also known to have families come back together that have been disconnected, children who've abandoned the families that have no longer talked to some black sheep kid in their family. I put them back together. And of course, this class usually is all about connecting to Hashem, which is bridging people to Hashem. And that's most of my online stuff is bridging people to Hashem. That's my purpose. So yesterday I was in a tough situation because I'm lighting my candles in the courtyard next door, and there's a particular overzealous family. It's a really pretty broken situation over there. It's extreme poverty and irresponsible parenting going on over there, and like the kids are completely hefker. But they're also kanoim. You know what kanoim are? Kanoim are zealots, like anti-state, anti-secular Israelis, like pretty hateful, like very bad energy place. So it's just it's like, I don't know, about 10 kids living in 2 rooms. It's literally 2 rooms. There's a front room and a back room, 10 kids, and, you know, in these kind of absentee parenting situation. Anyway, so the kids are now yelling to these secular Israeli groups who are down in the courtyard looking at the Hanukkah lights. They're yelling the words hachutza. Hachutza means get out of here. So they're yelling at the groups, get out of here. And meanwhile, there's like, I don't know, each group's probably 20 to 40, 20 to 40 people per group. And these people are like, probably feeling a little self-conscious walking into a Haredi courtyard. And, you know, they've come to Jerusalem from all over the country to enjoy the lights of Hanukkah. And everyone's pretty PTSD in this country from the war. And like now they got to get thrown out of this Haredi courtyard by a bunch of kids screaming achutza. So what do you think I did? You think I stayed in my apartment, or do you think I went out? So I believe me, I wanted to stay in my apartment. I did not want to deal with these kids at all. But I just said, you know what? I'm a bridge, and my purpose, even though like I so don't want to do this, and I just marched right into that house. I was literally walked into their salon. I didn't even ask to come in. I just walked right in. These kids, I think, made in their pants. And for 10 minutes, I let them have it. 10 minutes. I mean, I put the fear of God in these kids, you know, for 10 minutes straight. The father wasn't there. The mother was just like, you know, I mean, she just always looks like she's afraid child services is going to come take these kids out of there. And So she just, I think she's always panicked. And anyway, I just let him have it. But you understand that, can you imagine getting bawled out by me? Like, that'd be an experience, I'm jealous of my friends. One day I had a cold. I didn't get to go out with all my buddies. And they managed to put O.J. Simpson's son in the hospital. I guess, I don't know what they were smoking, drinking, sniffing. I'm pretty sure it was cocaine oriented. But eventually they realized that O.J.'s son, Jason, who was a classmate of ours, had to go to the hospital over this. He was clearly ODing, so rather than just having him die and running away, they brought him to the hospital. But the next day I was pretty upset that I missed that night, because they said they sat on a bench at the hospital and O.J. Simpson bawled them out for like 20 minutes, just screaming at my gang. It was my gang. Like, normally Jason isn't part of our gang, but the one night I wasn't there, Jason Simpson was there. So they all got bawled out by O.J. Simpson, and I missed it. Yeah. Anyway, I have a lot of stories like that growing up in L.A. So anyway, so you got to realize that that's in the way. So what do you got to do? You got to deal with your fear of rejection, and you got to deal with your fear of failure. You get that? If you're going to figure out your purpose, you have to get rid of your fear of rejection, and you got to get rid of your fear of failure. How do you do that? How do you get rid of your fear of rejection? Yeah?
My hand in hand, like if you have a strong enough purpose, then that fear of rejection and fear of failure won't affect you as much anymore.
Well, you're saying a very nice thing, and that's put it on a scale. So I got my fear of rejection and failure, and then I got my purpose. And am I really willing to lose my purpose because of my stupid ego? Because that's all ego anyway. So am I going to let my ego be more important? You understand? Like, so last night I was in a situation where I'd rather not walk into my neighbor's house right now. And so, I'd rather let my own fear of that altercation, I'd rather just, these people get thrown out of the neighborhood. But I'm a bridge. And if I'm a bridge, I can't let my fear of rejection be in the way here. And so I got to do what's uncomfortable right now. So yeah, you can hopefully weigh purpose down enough. But what's the problem? You don't know what your purpose is. So how are you going to get to it? And I believe this. I believe the only reason you don't know what your purpose is because of the fear of failure and rejection. Meaning, the fear of rejection and failure have so badly kind of damped your antennas. Meaning, it took a cigarette lighter onto your butterfly antennas, just like. So you lost touch with what your purpose is in the world. Had you been left to your own devices, you could have known. And what's the best way to know? Is to think about what's always bothered you about the world. What's always bothered you about the world? Since you're a little kid, you looked at the world, you were staring out the school bus, or you're at your parents' Shabbos table, or you were in synagogue, or you're in the community, or just walking down the street. What bothered you? And I can tell you that as a little kid, I had a big fat pair of binoculars, and I would bring them to every major sports game, which we had season tickets, literally 50-yard line football, right behind the home plate of Dodger Stadium, and literally behind the bench of the Lakers, right behind the players, a little higher than them so we could see good, the court. And I had giant binoculars, and my father would say, "What do you need binoculars for? You got the best seats in the house." But it was a joke because he knew what I was doing there. I'm not going to watch a game. I wasn't there to watch a game. I was watching the people on the other side. And I would just go row by row by row until I finally find a father and son who don't talk to each other. They haven't talked. And I keep monitoring. So that's one. I'm going to monitor them throughout the game. There's a husband and wife, and they're in some kind of fight. I don't know what's going on with them. So I'm going to monitor them for the game. And And that's all I did the whole game, was just I'd find people. There's thousands of people. So I would find the people who were disconnecting, and then I would just go from each station, like, see if they would talk. And I'm a little kid, and I just wanted it to be resolved. I just wanted it to be resolved. I felt their pain, and I was desperate. I couldn't breathe. I would literally watch the father and son and like holding my breath and try to put words in the father's mouth or words in the kid's mouth and like try to like do mental telepathy like across the stadium that they should talk to each other. My parents said when I was little, if they ever wanted to find me, they had to look up. Meaning wherever we were, just go out there and look up. And they would look up and they'd see some giant eucalyptus tree or on the roof of the building or wherever. I was always up there watching people to see if they are connected to each other. That's all I could think about when I was little. But the thing is you too, you had your own thing. It probably wasn't what I worry about. I worry about people connecting. You had the thing that you wanted to see in the world. Some people, they couldn't handle injustice. Some people hated the bullying and victimization of individuals. Some people couldn't stand that some people have no money, meaning that there's poverty, that people aren't eating. Some people can't stand the education systems, and some people can't stand government. And meaning the first step is getting rid of the ego. We spoke about that. But the second step is figuring out what's always bothered you. What's always bothered you about the world? What's bothered you about this planet since you were born? Can you guys think of anything? Go ahead, raise your hand. Let's hear something that always bothered you. Yeah, what always bothered you?
Uneven social hierarchies, how people place themselves above other people.
Like snobs.
Yeah.
You never liked that. Wow. Okay. You don't like snobbiness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So you know what bothers you. Anyone else?
The herd mentality.
Herd mentality. You don't like the way people don't have their own voice. Very nice. Keep going, guys.
There's not about
What's that?
There's not about
Just to love people. You saw that conditional love. You didn't like how love was conditional, based on, conditional means that you have to fulfill some condition to get love. Interesting. Yeah? What bothered you? Julia, what's always bothered you? What's always bothered you about this world? You don't know?
Figuring it out.
Yeah, well, it's always been there. It's always under the current. You got yours?
Not fully.
You got to find it. You'll see. Once you get it, you'll realize it's always bothered you. How about you, young man? You know what's always bothered you? You need a problem worth your life. You understand? You've been spending your time trying to figure out, like, a lot of people are troubleshooting all their problems, you know, like make sure your bills are paid or make sure your taxes are dealt with and parking tickets. And we got all kinds of things that we got to deal with, you know. So we spend a lot of time dealing with these little problems. What I'm offering is a big problem. You need one big problem worth your life. You got to have one big problem worth your life, and then your life's so meaningful. And then you'll be happy because you have a meaningful life. Because the key path to a meaningful life is having path to a happy life is having a meaningful life. And what could be a more meaningful life than spending your life solving a problem? You know, do you realize a plumber that's not his purpose, but a plumber who, like, some lady has a leak in her house and, this pouring down into her sink, and meaning under the sink and onto the floor of her kitchen. And the plumber comes, and for 100 shekels or 150 shekels, he comes and changes the valve and he tightens it up. But you realize he sleeps better knowing that he helped that lady. It's not just the money. He solved a problem. There's a certain great feeling that he has. I even like watching them do it. Like when they come to my house to do that, I like to actually watch the action. Like watch this guy solve this problem, and I sense his the richness in his heart. Yeah, I know people make a lot more money than that guy, but this guy's got a certain problem solved. So how about living that purpose? You figured yours out?
Mine has a lot to do with people's fear of elevating themselves and seeing people in like a lower, call it vibration of consciousness. They're not, something's blocking them, something's stopping them from being who they truly are. So I guess it's a catalyst for other people's purpose. And I feel like everybody's,
Say it again.
if I had to boil it down, to be to elevate people's consciousness for myself and others. And through myself and people seeing my consciousness elevated, they also are.
So the problem would be unconscious people.
Yeah.
And since you were little, you used to notice people were unconscious? See? Yes. So for these four of you guys still got to work on this. You got to figure out what's always bothered you. Because you need a problem worth solving. You need a problem that's worth solving. And that'll be very rewarding to solve that one. Everyone, whatever you guys said, it would be very rewarding to spend your life solving that.
I'm failing.
Yeah, you'll fail. And it'll be embarrassing sometimes to put yourself forward. I put myself in all kinds of situations that are often embarrassing just to work on my bridging people together. Anyway, the next thing is that the next level of this would be to figure out what's your special skill set. What are you good at? Everyone's got something they're good at. So you'd want to develop you want to think about somewhere where you're naturally good at things. So, and then what you do is you apply that which you're good at and apply it to the problem that you're here to solve. So, for example, what I'm naturally good at is public speaking, especially when I don't have a sinus infection. But I'm naturally good at public speaking. And what I do is I often discuss people. I've figured out like literal technologies and how to get people back together who have lost their contact with loved ones, with each other, with fellow employees, with employers, with the. I figure out how to bridge people, and I use my public speaking to do that. You get that? So that's the next step is you figure out what your skill sets are, and then you apply your skill set to the problem, and then what you want to do is nail the purpose to one word. You want to get the purpose down to one word. One word purpose. So mine's bridge. You know your one word purpose? It takes a little time to get it down to one word. Yeah.
A lot of what you're talking about is a purpose that involves mostly, the outside world other than yourself.
Yeah, purpose is totally beyond your life. It'll even outlive you. It'll probably be, whatever you choose as your purpose will probably get bigger when you die, not less. Yeah, the purpose has nothing to do with you.
So doesn't that connect to the overall purpose of maybe the world and other people? Like yours is bridge that connects that helps connect to other people's purpose. Would you say that they're all intertwined?
Well, there's one big thing called Tikkun Olam, that all of us are here to fix the world, and obviously everything's related to everything. So the more everyone's fixing everything, the more they're going to relate.
Would you consider like family to be the exterior thing, or?
Family's a little better than just yourself, but it's also way more internal than what I'm looking for. Yeah. By the way, I'm not talking about how big the purpose is. The purpose could be only the feeling people get when you walk into a room. It doesn't mean you're now running a giant tax-deductible organization with 10 branches. You understand? This can be as big or little as you choose to go. It's up to you how big you play it. But and certainly your family feels your purpose. But it shouldn't be limited to your front door, the front door of your house. Understand?
Well, start there.
Why is that?
You could start there.
Meaning, like, you could have the biggest purpose for the outside world, but in your own family, you're not.
Right. So
Person you need to be,
so
like,
we'll finish with that. We'll finish with that. There's two games of life. There's an outer game and an inner game. And so you have to be very careful not to be a bluffer. Because, people with big outer games generally have really bad inner games. Your inner game's your inner private life. And your outer game's the world, the game you play out in the public world. So like famous big outer game bluffers are like politicians, musicians, professional athletes. And that's why you'll notice that the tabloids, like the gossip newspapers, are full of these, this one broke up with this one, they got divorced, and a good example of this is, what's that guy's, the one who owns Tesla? Elon Musk. Big outer game. His inner game is, how many times that guy been married? He's got 12 kids, or did he just have another kid? I think he might have had a 13th kid. Minus one though, because he said his son that became a girl, he said his son is dead.
Yeah.
So that was very popular on social media. That guy's nuts. Like he just.
That son is dead.
You know about this? Yeah. So anyway,